What are some good first date questions to get to know someone? What's the largest mammal you think you could knock out with a single punch? What are some things our parents don't know about you? Will you marry me? Edit, classic Schmosby. If their name is an uncommon one, make sure you ask what's the correct pronunciation. Literally the first thing I said to my husband on our first date was, "Hello," followed by a butchered attempt to say his name. He replied, "What did you just call me?" And up until that moment, I had never before felt the urge to jump into the nearby creek in mid-February. Favorite dinosaur? Which vegetable offends you the most? On our first date my husband and I did a thing where one of us would choose a year, then we'd both say what we were doing in that year of our lives. It was a great way to get to know each other. The irony of all these hilarious answers is that you could probably use literally any of these questions on a first date and they'd most likely laugh, which by nature makes them good questions to ask even though they're intended to be bad ones. ITT joke answers are meta AF. Which side were you rooting for in WW2? Do you have any outstanding warrants? OkCupid had a really cool blog about statistics from their huge user base. The 3 questions they found were best predictors for compatibility. 1. Do you like scary movies? 2. Have you ever traveled alone in another country? 3. Wouldn't it be fun to chuck it all and live on a sailboat? If you agree on those 3, you're likeliest to succeed. Edit, because a lot of people are missing this and it's bumming them out. Let me say again, agreeing on these questions correlates with success. Your answers yes or no do not matter, how well they match your partner's answers does. Also, yes, it is just a correlation, not a hard guarantee. There are millions of happy couples that disagree on all 3. Some other fun bits from that article: if you want to know if your date is religious, ask how they feel about spelling mistakes. Higher tolerance of spelling mistakes correlates strongly with being religious. If you want to know if your date is DTF, ask her if she likes beer. There is a strong correlation between the two. Why are you gay? Using Ugandan accent. Lots of hypothetical situation questions. I find they help you understand how they think and prioritize their lives. E.g., if you could travel anywhere in the world for W month, all expenses paid, where would you go? What would you do? I take it you're trying to date and are nervous. Honestly, there is no rule book questions you should really abide to. Just get to talking. Start off with small talk openers like, where did you go to school, where do you work, do you like this and that. Eventually you'll get around to talking about hobbies, experiences. You can tater off and then talk about your own experiences and just ping-pong off of each other. Eventually you get a pretty good feel of that person is genuine or fake. That's how most conversation starts sounding natural with a good flow. Of course, if you get somebody that sees you, and finds you but ugly, then you won't get any responses at all. And any questions you ask would lead to no information about them. What do you like doing in your free time? I never asked about people's jobs. I didn't really care how they got their money, I cared how they got their excitement and passion. I knew this would be a garbage show when I didn't see the serious tag lol. What are some good first date questions to get to know someone? Why don't you put away your phone? Ask them who their favorite Muppet is. If they choose anyone other than Gonzo, explain why they are wrong and then leave. Your parents are about to be executed. You are given a chance to save only one of them. Which one do you choose? Bonus points if you follow up with what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Have you ever had a dream that you had to, you could, you do, you wit, you wa, you could do so, you do, you could, you wanted them to do you so much you could do anything? Does this look infected? Fun, open-ended questions that lets them talk about them a bit. Stuff like, what are your political leanings? Are you religious? What is your stance on the Armenian genocide? How many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why? What was your first pet's name? What was your second grade teacher's name? What was the make and model of your first car? What is the name of the road you grew up on? What city were you born in? Then read all their emails and DMs. Good way to get to know someone. I don't know if it's good for a date, but it's fun to ask strangers, what's your favorite compliment? It gives you a lot of information and I think it starts a conversation pretty easily. You got STDs? Thanks for silver. Do you use Reddit? If they say no, you can safely say something like, oh, okay, and change the subject. But if they say yes, then you need to get up and walk away. Edit, my new top Reddit comment is basically a repost of my own comment on essentially the same question. Can anyone give an answer on how to get a first date? Let's not put the cart before the horse. What unresolved childhood trauma will emerge through maladaptive behaviors as we spend more time together? What's your name? Who's your daddy? Is he rich? Is he rich, like me? In an emergency, how many third graders could you fight off? Coke or Pepsi, especially if you're serving them. What's your favorite random fact? What's the most spontaneous thing you've done? What's your worst cooking disaster? What would be the hardest thing for you to live without? Have you heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? This isn't so much questions, but a little game you can play that can help break the ice and let you know how well you mesh together. If you're at a place like a bar or restaurant, look around the room and try to come up with backstories for other people there. It can be a lot of fun and takes some of the pressure off, while getting you two talking to each other and getting a feel for each other's sense of humor, personality. As you sit over coffee, get beyond the usual, nice to meet you, how is traffic, having a good day, to get the conversation flowing. The next question should always be, so are you aware that you need to put a serious tag on a post if you want to get good answers? Who are you? I like your dress, does it have pockets? Just get it off the table. Kids or no kids? What is your social security number and date of birth? I'm stung by a jellyfish, you peeing on me. Who did you choose between Squirtle, Charmander and Bulbasaur? Folks will often say that you should stay away from R.A.P.E. on a first date. For the record, that stands for religion, abortion, politics, and exes, the topics you should avoid discussing. Here's the thing, though, unless you're in the market for a short-term, casual relationship, it's in your and your prospective partner's best interest to put as many cards on the table as possible. After all, you don't want to spend several months dating only to discover that you aren't compatible with a person. Like, say, because they not so secretly believe that leprechauns control the weather or something. As such, the best conversation starters are those which lead to simultaneously interesting and revealing exchanges. If you had an hour during which any crime was both legal and socially acceptable, what would you do? Are there any social taboos that you feel are a bit ridiculous? Are there any to which you don't personally adhere? What is the most allegedly unacceptable perspective that you hold? Now, granted, the answers to questions of that nature are very often things that shouldn't be voiced in public, so you'll want to be tactful about where and when you ask them. But at the same time, if the date seems to be going well, you can use the prospect of more intimate discussion as an excuse to go somewhere more private. In either case, the best conversation starters are those which reveal important details about both parties, those which help determine whether or not the two of you will be compatible in the long term. In other words, you should absolutely discuss R.A.P.E. on a first date if you're looking for a permanent partner. TLDR, the best conversation starters are those which would normally be conversation enders. Where were you on 9/11s? What are you in for? What would be their weapon of choice in the apocalypse? What gives you the right? Do you want to be the lampshade in my living room or bedroom? What is your spaghetti policy? Shall we go to the bone zone? Question: what kind of bear is best? What are your favorite subreddits, and why are they all furry related? How likely are you to yell at me in public? Comedian Sam Morrill. Ask about her interests. Maybe you don't have common things. Does this rag smell like chloroform? Should have put the serious tag in here, fella. If I called you and told you that I killed my neighbor and I need help getting rid of the body, would you, except with no questions asked? EB. Call the police. C. Start your oven and ask how much they weighed. I read a LPT earlier today that stated if you're taking someone on a dinner-movie date, go to the movie first. That way, at dinner, if the conversation is lacking or having a hard time starting up, you can get it going with talking about the movie. Smiley face. And #X200B seems easy enough to get a conversation flowing, especially if you're feeling nervous. Good luck. Are your fingerprints in the police database? In millimeters, how long are your toenails before you decide to cut them? Do you keep the remains? Do you have any pets you aren't using anymore? How do you feel about basements? Which bodily fluid do you think has the most pleasant aroma? Which layer of skin do you favor the most? My cat died 6 years ago. Wanna see? What is your favorite disability? I stopped in my tracks, and instead of looking around for validation, I looked inside. There's a lot of people out there, all with a different opinion, and that's all it is, an opinion. They're all different, and you're never going to be good enough for all of them. The only person that has to live with you 24/7 is you. So the best thing you can do is be good enough for you. Be the person you think is a good person, make decisions that feel right to you, look in your heart and make decisions based on how that makes you feel. At the end of the day, when life is over, you will do the dying, nobody is going to die for you, so you might as well be the one that does the living too. So I just stopped looking at other people's opinions, and started finding the answers in my own heart. Doing things that didn't make me a bit uncomfortable, just to make others accept me. You weren't put on this earth to be like others, you were put here so you could be you, find who you are. It's a lifelong journey, and I've found more of myself than I could ever hope for. I'm confident enough now that I don't care too much about what others think of the choices I make, since they're not the ones who have to live with the aftermath of those choices, I am. On top of that, if you behave a certain way, make certain choices, based on what others want, but not really what you want, you'll attract more people who like those choices, more people who agree with the choices you didn't even agree with yourself. If you make the choices you want to make, do things your way, you'll attract more people who are like you, and you'll feel much better. This world is never going to become a better place, if nobody is willing to stand out, if nobody is willing to change, if nobody is willing to be different regardless of the opinion of others. This is the end of my novel, thank you for your patience.